All right, looking this way. I think it looks good. On 3. Front, left over right is always the rule. Left, down, right on top. Some of you hold for just a second, we'll see. So go this way a little bit. There you go, good. I was just meaning the back row. Okay. Looking good, looking good.
It's scary.
My name's Ty Petrocco. I'm a senior here at Sturgis Brown High School. Our season opener is this Thursday. We're really excited. For us on the distance squad, we came off a really strong season last year, winning events in the 4x800, and then as a boys team, we also were able to place 6, which is the first time Sturgis has been on the podium in quite a while, so we were proud of that. We're looking to build off that. We are losing a few key pieces in Aiden Hederman. I mean, he's the obvious one. He scored a lot of points for us last year, but at last year's state meet, we also had a few things go wrong and just some other areas that we feel like we can clean up and then just kind of build off that performance to hopefully get us onto the podium again this year. And we're just looking for some good things. We've had a good first few weeks of practice, and we're hoping to build off it and have a great season.
I'm Jayden Ludwick. I run the 300 hurdles in 110. Last year I placed 4th in the 300 hurdles, and I had Aiden Hederman help me last year. Looking forward to filling his steps kind of with the 300 hurdles, and hopefully I improve in the 110s this year.
My name is Paige. I did the 4x8 last year, the 800, and the mile, and I'm really hoping for our 4x8 to break the school record and get on the podium at state.
My name's Avery Marler. I did the 100, 200, 400, and long jump last year. This year I'm looking to PR in all the events and hopefully run a 55 in the 400, 25 in the 200, and a low 12 in the 100.
Well, Blake Proefrock, congratulations on a great season last year. Talk a little bit about this year's season. I see we have about 100 athletes here competing for positions. Talk about your overall plan for the year.
All right, yeah, we have a lot of kids out this year. Probably as many kids out as we've had in all my years here so far. It's probably 110, I think, or maybe a few more than that. Actually, I think we had a couple more add late, but yeah, we're really looking forward to this year. We had a really good year last year. We definitely have more boys than girls again, maybe almost double, maybe not quite, but we got a bunch of them, and so the depth on the boys side is going to be there, and obviously the boys were real solid last year, ended up on the podium, and I think we're going to be able to do that maybe again this year, even losing the talent that we had just with some depth. So we're looking forward to a really good year.
Blake, talk a little bit about the overall goal for the team this year.
Well, I think we always want to compete well conference, and work our way and peak at the right time and compete for conference and be in the top couple teams there, and then see kind of what type of depth we have, and then see if we can't get on the podium at state. It's kind of tough. It's tough for us being a smaller school with the big classes, and it's kind of a numbers game. So, but that's the goal.
Sure. Talk a little bit about the biggest strengths of this year's squad.
Well, I think definitely on the boys' side, it's actually gonna be the depth, that we have, and then of course, this probably the strength as within a unit is probably the boys, the distance kids, that we got coming back. Obviously, we got the whole group coming back that won the state 4x8, and then just some really strong individuals, and Petrocco and Brooke, and there's a handful of them, Ferguson and Kalunga, and just then the whole crew. So, and with the girls, we just don't quite have enough of them, but we got some really solid girls, coming back. I just wish we had a few more, but Marler and Willnerd and Hamer and Zylstra, and just some really strong kids, Ireland, Nacy, but we just got to get the young kids coming along, and hopefully we'll be solid.
Do you see any newcomers or underclassmen that's going to really be the breakout kid of the season?
Well, I think we got a few of them. I think and I don't think, to be fair, I don't think they know it yet. And just a lot of these kids come from the middle school, and they're kind of used in testing out a bunch of different things, and to a certain degree, they get voluntold to go certain areas where I think they're going to be best, and you know, if they're willing to do the work, they tend to get that. But I think we got a few of them for sure.
Levi Brandt holds a school javelin record, and what expectations do you have for him this season?
Well, he's a lot of fun because I actually got to have him in class for the first time, you know, in American history class, and just being able to talk with him a little bit more, because you just have so many kids, but you know, just his expectations for himself. It's kind of interesting. He doesn't even want to set a number or set a goal, because he just thinks that almost puts a cap on what he can do, and so that tells you the type of kid he is, and we knew that beforehand. You know, him and his brother and his dad, you know, helps out, and it's just, you know, phenomenal family, but who knows? You know, the sky's the limit. You know, the amount of work that he put in, you know, and he puts in this summer, and you know what he's doing up here, you know, on his own all the time. He's just a very focused individual, and I don't know what the top or what the ceiling is for him, but I'm excited to watch.
Good. Avery Marler has her name in the all-time Sturgis High School record book, third in the 100, second in the 200, and second in the 400, and second in the long jump. And she's talked about her goals. Give us a little insight on Avery and what your expectations are.
Yeah, you know, this is going to be, you know, a little bit different year, I think, for her, because she's going to really be able to, you know, to be probably, you know, focus a lot more just on kind of some of those individual things without having kind of the depth necessarily that, you know, that we have team-wise. And she's been part of relays and things like that, where we've been really, you know, competed really well at state. But, you know, this year for her, I know she's really chomping at the bit, because unfortunately last year when we went to state, you know, she got sick. And, you know, she kind of was under the weather on the way down there, and wasn't able to compete, you know, the way she wanted to, unfortunately. And what's really unfortunate is just the last chance meet before that. I mean, she set some of those big time numbers. I mean, she was peaking, you know, like 57, you know, second quarter, and you know, gosh, I just it's gonna be fun to watch her this year. You know, I think you know what she wants to do, and as, you know, committed as she is and goal oriented, it's gonna be fun to see.
Blake, what would you say if we asked you what's a successful season look like for your Sturgis track team?
Well, I think just, you know, to continue to improve throughout the year. You know, we're doing this, you know, some things a little bit different this year, you know, and just kind of how we're training and whatnot, and keep everybody healthy, but making sure we're gonna peak at the, you know, at the end of the year, and all the way through to the state meet. But, you know, I just think is, you know, keeping everybody out, keeping everybody motivated, you know, and trying to find, you know, their niche. We got a lot of young kids, you know, and so just to fill all those roles and to fill all those spots, and you know, like I said before, it can be a numbers game when you get to the end and you're trying to compete for conference title and stuff like that, and even at state. So, you know, making sure kids find the right spots and they enjoy what they're doing too, and, you know, and keep everyone on the right track, and hopefully the weather stays nice as well. So,
talk a little bit about Ty Petrocco in the 1,600 meter run. He placed 11th, and in the 3,200 he placed 8th at state. I know he's got some extra high goals. Talk a little bit about Ty.
Yeah, I mean, he knows everything about everything, I feel like, you know, about every other individual in the state and all the competition, and you know, what to do and what to, you know, how to get better. And he's asking us a million questions. At Coach Peterson, I think he's in Coach Peterson's ear probably 365 days a year. No, the kid's incredible. You know, every facet. You know, I think, you know, he had kind of an unfortunate deal last year too, where in, you know, the 800, you know, he ended up in a big crash, you know, a wreck on the track, and got tripped up. So that was kind of unfortunate. But I think, you know, he's going after all of them. You know, where he is, and, you know, on our all-time, you know, our all-time top 10 list, at, you know, and what he wants to do in you know, probably all 3 races. What he wants to do coming back maybe with the, you know, the 4x8 team, and, you know, I think he wants them all. You know, I do, to be honest. I think that's the type of kid he is, and I think he has kind of potential to place high in everything.
Another one of our boys on the distance team is Quinn Brook. He took 16th in the mile and 13th, right on Ty's tail. Talk a little bit about Quinn.
Yeah, Quinn, he's another one of those kids. He's just and where he started, just years ago to where he is now is incredible. It's just the work ethic that he has, and he had a really kind of up and down, fall kind of in the cross country, and whatnot, and he had some really good highs, and and then he kind of ended up at the end of the year, and he was kind of under the weather. A lot of the kids were, unfortunately, and so I think that kind of drove him through the winter, and he he worked a lot. I mean, he ran a lot, he trained an awful lot. He had some races, indoor races where, he really started coming around, set some PRs there. So I think people are going to be surprised. I think people are going to be surprised, maybe even on Thursday, possibly, kind of where he's at and, and what he's ready to bring.
Last one is we lost Aiden Hederman, of course, the state champion in hurdles. We've got some up-and-comings. Jayden Ludwick and Tegan Wormstead, they both qualified for state last year. Talk about those two boys in the hurdles.
Yeah, they were, coming back. That's kind of the thing I've been talking with, Jayden all year, and Coach Hederman's, been talking and was, gonna help him and help out again coming back and all the hurdlers. But, he placed really high in the 300s. He really came on strong at the end of the year. He was right. He was right there. I think he was maybe 9th, the first person out, to qualify in the 110s. So he's one of the guys to beat. He should be coming back. Wormstead the same way. I think he was 9th in the 300s. Just finishing out. When he qualified, not making the finals. So he's going to be right there as well. And that's why we think what we have coming back and the amount of depth and the amount of kids we have coming back. I think, it's kind of hard to fill Aiden Hederman's shoes. I mean, he's I don't know, one in however many decades type of kid that you get coming through where he's pole vaulter and hurdler and in the relays. He's just a phenomenal kid and and whatnot. And he was just back this over spring break and talked to a lot of kids and and helped out a little bit and out here training, and it's fun to see him around and kind of help motivate the kids and whatnot. So it's going to be fun to see those holes filled, and can't really fill the entire shoes, but maybe we can as an entire unit. I don't know.
Sure. On Thursday, we have the meet in Rapid City Stevens. We've got 57 boys registered to compete and 35 girls. Expectations for Thursday?
Yeah, that's kind of one of those things. We're just talking to Coach Koletsky, and what do we do with that many kids? First of all, we got a bunch of them. But it's just kind of to see where we're at and what we have with, a lot of those kids. A lot of them are just going to be, in a lot of the sprints and whatnot to kind of see where we are. The expectations, though, we definitely have some kids that have done all the right things, I think, to really raise some eyebrows right off the bat. And, we kind of mentioned some of those, Petrocco and Brooke, and, we got these kids coming back that, had placed at state last year. I think Marler is ready to go, and but yeah, I think even all the athletes just are ready to see kind of where they're at. We've been practicing for quite a while now and had some pretty decent weather for the most part at the beginning of the year. So we've been out, been at the track and so we're, it's kind of hard to predict, but I think we're going to see a lot of good things.
Well, congratulations, Blake, for having 115 kids out. That's amazing, and best of luck on Thursday.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Thank you very much.